8 minutes on this dock for some reason, and that being that because sometimes like last year when I had memory management, you know, equilibrium, open source, whatever, feeling into the natural way for that subtext or whatever is there's more time to record. Some people have like endless time to record, more or less, but there's different instruments of time, through the tech, throughout, without the tech. But the message I wanted to say here was within the 8 minutes that I have on this doc is the irony of psychological type of anarchy, and what psychological anarchy that I'm pointing to in a particular frame of working with that energy or that theme of like what we do with these themes of life. They're like we're working with them as they're more or less going through them, because they're not entirely going through us, because we're defined within our human design body chart, and that definition is meta physiological definition of how we're inebriated and filled with material substance that's leaning towards organic materials of different types of combinations, fusions of water, earth, and even respectively for like however we have our tree DNA first, respectively. But Naruto already did it, of like how we're more or less tapping in to that to the different DNAs. But the point here is like it's kind of funny because there's more than one type of discomfort. When we say something like discomfort this, discomfort that, discomfort yada yada yada, it's not necessarily talking about one particular context of discomfort, because your psychological discomfort could be different from just the fucking weather discomfort, respectively. Excuse my language, but it's just the passion that's there that needs to be let out, regardless of anybody's biased, polarized perception, respectively, and perspective, respectively. So the thing here is, if we get instructions however we get instructions, then our basic base human psyche, mind, physiological psychology, whatever, body, mind, spirit, the body doesn't take akin to like direct brood brash orders. So that's already a psychological disturbance. It doesn't necessarily have to be called a discomfort, but it could be called a disturbance because there's something off that's not like necessarily just like kind of received well within the instrument that's ultimately perceiving that. Hence the human having these different like kind of like, I guess you could call them quirks of how like it's obviously not a perfect reaction. It just like, and that's like I kind of speak in like a way where I feel like I'm coming from a different original spiritual realm, regardless of like the hype of just like the chasing of the experiences and whatnot. But the main point I wanted to say here was like, if we get an insight, and however it's suggested to us, hopefully in like a feminine, gentle, graceful way, however we get suggested something, anything to us, and it's on harmony within us, then our psyche, our spiritual psyche is going to receive it well, because it's going into attune with its intuition and instinct. And as it's doing that, it's like no one necessarily needs to tell me, like maybe like for example, maybe I might want to have an idea, and obviously this is going to be the title of the video, so this was just kind of like the prelude to the title and the subject of the video. But within that, like for example, like if I wanted to be celibate, and I only got 4 minutes, so I'm gonna get straight to the point. Like if I wanted to be celibate, for example, like it's up to me to like work up to that realization through life. And as I'm working up to that realization of life, and like there could be other signs or synchronicities or whatever, but more so like you're getting like the pure influence and realization just from yourself alone. And that could be like backed up and accumulated by different types of intelligence, different types of spiritual pursuances, and different types of affiliations to what ultimately is like, making you who you are within the parties and the people that you're around, ultimately making up like who and what you are on a moment to moment changing basis. So within that moment to moment changing basis, we don't necessarily know that we're like that there's different types of discomfort, and one type of discomfort is like, if you get told what to do and it doesn't harmonize with you, then there's going to be some type of psychological war, wouldn't there not be? And within that, it's like but like it's not like it's not what's actually like suggested, it's how it's suggested. It's not actually what's commanded, it's how it's commanded. It's not necessarily what's given instruction, it's how it's given instruction. And that has both, considering both opposites of the integers of whatever polarities are playing out in any expression, circumstance, or situation. So like if I were to suggest, no, I don't suggest anything to anything. I'm just bouncing ideas with me. Like, so if like my intelligence wants to like think about celibacy for whatever reason, just because of the basic, levels of different material emissions of like just the material toxicity that has nothing to do with the mind or the spirit, just like the toxicity of the like, and I have a general concern for like real type of pollution in the skies, then there would be like a part of me that would want to be cleanly, more so cleanly as much as I can, given what I have. And within that, maybe like why would we be celibate to begin with? Well, I don't know. That's infinitely for you to explore, because we're all at our own different levels of realization within our intelligence, within the physiological body, with how that more or less pairs with different energies, aka real deep spirituality. And that real deep spirituality, us having a gradual, compressed, more or less relationship, and it being a challenge for us to be harmonic with that, and how on the deepest original level the big spirit of the universe is relating to the big spirit underneath the material planes, underneath Bhumandala, underneath all the earth. So it's like there's different reasons to be celibate, but it's not for me to like force anybody. That's the thing. It's like I'm not trying to like so the main point of this is like recognizing when something is being forced to you. And here's the kicker right here, how on an ironic level you're kind of like a part and like fighting for a system that is actually forcing you to do stuff on a different trick niche level without us necessarily realizing it. Because like I said, there's infinite different types of realization, and we're all infinitely at different stages of that level of realization, but each one teach one supposedly. And it's like we don't necessarily have the applied faith and the dedication to the real intelligence, and if we did, none of this imbalance of anything would happen. So the trick here is like recognizing like not like just seeing when something is force suggested as to you. And like obviously I have 8 minutes, so this is just something brief.